I think we've heard the speech before. I think you're going to see a combination of sound bites. I mean, this is a president, I almost feel abused by how many speeches I've had to listen to from Barack Obama. Over 100 on health care alone.
No, but Buck, he says his biggest problem is that he has not been able to communicate enough with us.
People. We've heard this president speak a whole lot.
Yeah.
I think that there has now been a recognition that just him speaking does not change people's minds necessarily. In fact, on the issue of Obamacare or the ACA, people started to like it less the more they heard about it. I don't think we're going to hear anything new tonight. You'll probably hear something along the lines of, I don't want to say it's halftime in America. That was a Clint Eastwood thing. Yeah. Something like that, though. I said it was the first act of a two-act play. We're in the middle now, and to take us out of this would be to sort of just ruin the whole thing. We're at the midpoint. We're at the halfway line. We're going to finish this march, and he's not going to, in any way, shape, or form, I think, go back to the standards that he set for himself because he's failed to meet them.
Well, you know what I think is also interesting? It's interesting that someone like Bill Clinton, and really over the course of this DNC, and I think you're going to see it again tonight, with Joe Biden and Barack Obama, completely ignoring the rise in poverty that has happened under this president's watch. For someone like Bill Clinton to go on stage and have to ignore poverty must have been a very odd moment for him.
It's almost like he has no principles.
It's almost. I mean, 1 in 6 now on government assistance. We know food stamps has risen astronomically under this president. Poverty a non-issue. Meanwhile, almost every single person that gets up on that DNC stage wants to tell people that Republicans hate poor people and Republicans' policies are bad for poor people. Poverty is the boogeyman of this DNC.
If Barack Obama wants to talk about the economy tonight, and I'm not convinced he really wants to talk about it to any great extent.
Yeah.
If this were a chess game, he doesn't have that many moves left to play. We saw some of them played last night by Bill Clinton. What I would estimate he's got about 3 moves to make in discussing the economy tonight. One, he can do exactly what Bill Clinton did. Take a very, very wide scope, pulled out view, 30,000 feet, play the Democratic Party against the Republican Party over a 50-year time frame. We will not concentrate on the last 4. Let's talk about how it was during Bill Clinton's years and in the 60s versus the Reagan years and the Bush years. That's one tact he could follow. The other is one we've seen President Obama already take in his Kansas speech almost a year ago now, and it's essentially the villainize the rich speech.
Yeah.
It's the class warfare speech, and this is what I stand for versus what Mitt Romney stands for.
This is what they'll do to you.
This is what they'll do to you. And then his third tact is one that Clinton embraced last night, and that is lie. And that is to the extent, to the extent
that is a favorite.
that we can talk about the last 4 years, we will manipulate statistics to talk about how this has rebounded. For example, the manufacturing thing we talked about earlier. He'll try to parse various areas and draw arbitrary lines to show how it's improved under him. Those are his 3 moves as far as I can see it, and I'm not convinced they won't be successful.
Well, I think you can say that the first move and the second that you listed work very nicely together in terms of being able to say, this is our philosophy. We've heard a lot from President Obama about social Darwinism, for example, and the 1% versus the rest of us, and this collectivist idea. And I think that we've seen so far is his strategy for pushing him past some of those statistics that don't reflect so well on his administration, of this collectivist idea that if we all bind together, Michelle Obama touched on this as well, that we can overcome what George Bush has saddled us with. But we need this collective energy in order to do it.
And it's also kind of a straw man. This is what I think he's going to say tonight, the we're in this together narrative. And I say straw man because who doesn't believe we're all in this together to some extent? You know, where if you are a baker, you're going to go out of business if nobody buys your products. And if you don't have anyone that you can buy inputs from, we're all a community. We have lots of voluntary associations with one another. We don't always need the government to force us to work together to be in this together.
One thing Bill Clinton did, and I have to say Michelle Obama did as well, is they were able to marry this collectivist idea with some sense of self-reliance. They didn't totally abandon the concept of pull yourself up by your bootstraps. When I hear President Obama talk, he does not embrace the pull yourself up by your bootstraps theme.
It's much cruder.
It's much more crude collectivism. I think Michelle Obama and Clinton gave much better voice to that. Will we see him be able to do that tonight? I don't know that we will.
I think President Obama is going to talk about things that are, again, longer term. He's going to say that what we've done with healthcare here is just set the stage for complete coverage of everyone in the future. He's going to tell stories about how this is saving people's lives. It's giving kids who could never have healthcare. You know, they're going to trot these things out. He's also going to talk about green energy. He's going to talk about things that Republicans view as failed or flawed over these 4 years. But he's saying, no, it's about 10 years from now. It's about complete energy independence. It's about the things we're going to do. A sustainable economy. It's about
winning the future.
It's winning the future, spreading the wealth. I mean, it's all about sort of the mass mobilization behind these very nebulous ideas that are hard for Republicans to disprove. On the disprovable stuff, I think he's going to stay away. On the economy, on unemployment.
What's interesting is that we've heard over the past 2 days all of his surrogates basically give away all of his best lines. I mean, he is going to have to repeat some of what they've said because there's no other way to say exactly what he's going to do. So I'm not sure there's any real suspense to this speech. Whereas with Mitt Romney, it didn't matter how much his surrogates talked. Everyone needed to hear from him.
Right.
Everyone needed to hear more from Mitt Romney, and only Mitt Romney could do it and could, you know, come in and paint a picture. But Mitt Romney was what people were waiting to hear from. You can
so Obama
discuss
is
how
not the
that
one
went.
we've been waiting for.
But we know President Obama.
If you were put off by his pie-in-the-sky
say.
rhetoric in 2008, I think tonight is going to be a big flop. People like me who weren't that impressed with him in 2008 tonight are going to think, ugh.
Well,